Now, is it visible?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, in the previous class of earthquake resistance structures subject, we have discussed behavior of masonry during the earthquakes with respect to the single wall and with respect to uh, the combined walls in a room. And we have discussed how to design a masonry wall for an earthquake load. Then we have discussed about how to check the flexural strength of a masonry, because when the masonry is subjected to the earthquake load, obviously it should have the sufficient flexural strength. Uh, so that flexural strength of the masonry, how to find that flexural strength of the masonry, that we have discussed using one of the test, that is bond wrench test. Okay. There are several other methods of testing for flexural strength of masonry. In the next topic, I have briefly written the other methods available. You can just go through the figure. Flexural strength of masonry parallel to the bed joint. You can check the flexural strength in two ways. One is parallel to the bed joint and normal to the bed joint. Here you can see one figure in the top right corner. There the flexural strength is investigated normal to the bed joint. Okay, which is the bed joint? I'll just show you. Okay, this is the bed joint actually. The joint is there, no? This is horizontal joint. That is called as bed joint. Bed joint. Okay, these vertical joints are called as head joints. Okay, and this flexural strength can be investigated in two ways. One is parallel to the bed joints and normal to the bed joint. If you want to investigate the flexural strength parallel to the bed joint, here you can see the loading condition. Here you can see the loading condition. The horizontal UDL will be applied. Okay, 2 point loading it is. Okay, on two-third portion of the whole length of the specimen is divided into three parts. Okay, in middle 2 points the loading will be applied. Okay, and the flexural strength parallel to the bed joint will be investigated. In the second case, to find flexural strength normal to the bed joint, the vertical loading like this. Okay, as mentioned in the figure, will be applied, and normal to the bed joint, the flexural strength will be investigated. Okay, most of the times this masonry wall will be uh, placed vertically only. In few cases it will be placed horizontally like this. Okay, in figure C you can see in this figure. Okay, and the flexural strength will be investigated. And yesterday we have studied the bond wrench test. There is one more advanced method, that is modified bond wrench test. In case of modified bond wrench test, but first I will discuss about the flexural strength using bond wrench test. In this test, what will happen is a single wallet will be considered. Okay, a single stack of bricks will be considered to investigate the flexural strength of the masonry. But in case of modified bond wrench test, minimum 2 to 3 layers of the bricks will be considered. Here you can see. Here you can see. A masonry wallet will be constructed. Okay, using full bricks and the half bricks. Okay, the center layer is there, no? The center layer, it is made of full bricks or the full units. Okay, and the center layer, which is made by using full units, will be again attached with one more layer of or one more stack of bricks which are cut into half portions, and it is this full layer will be covered on either side by this half, the two more layers which are made by the half unit, okay, half of the brick, okay. Similarly, whatever the procedure we have followed for bond range test, same procedure we will follow. Okay, some small projection will be given at the top like this for the top brick. Okay, for the top brick, small projection will be given. At this, the brick will be held in position using this bond wrench apparatus, and at the free end of the lever arm, the loading will be given. Loading will be given until the specimen breaks. Okay, and the ultimate load will be noted down. And using that formula, uh, using this formula, we will find the flexural strength. Okay, see, if you take any brick masonry wall, most of the time, so it will have 2 to 3 layers, right? So if it is having 2 to 3 layers, there will be some contribution from neighboring layers towards the flexural strength of the masonry. So that is why it is called as modified bond range test. Okay. In this case, we will construct the 3 layers of bricks and perform the test. Okay, so this is about modified bond range test. Okay, so whatever the things are discussed, these are the different types of tests to assess the flexural strength of the masonry. Similarly, when it comes to the shear strength of the masonry, again there are several other methods. Okay, several methods available. In that, the most commonly used method is a diagonal tension test. Okay, here I have written the figures of different types of tests performed to assess the shear strength of the masonry. One is nose shear. Okay, some Vander Plugin shear test, Mealy test, okay, direct shear test, triplet test, and diagonal tension test. Okay, this triplet test recently we have done it in our structural engineering lab. Recently, we received some consultancy work. Okay, there we have given brick samples to assess the shear strength of the brick. This test we have performed. Okay, we have performed this test recently. It is a very simple test. What we will do is we will construct the stack of 3 bricks, okay, with a specified strength of mortar joint between the bricks, okay, and at the top some projection will be given, okay, at the top some projection will be given, and in the compression testing machine the compressive load is applied on the top of the beam till the shear failure takes place. Okay, till the shear failure takes place. Knowing this maximum load or the ultimate load taken by the brick, okay, and knowing the cross sectional area in which the brick is subjected to the shearing action, we will find the actual shear strength of the brick actual shear strength of the brick. Okay, and here one more we have one more test setup. Okay, in this case also the bricks will be attached to some setups, 2 bricks. Between the bricks there will be a mortar joint and loading will be applied, okay, so that shearing action takes place at this joint, okay, at this joint, and the ultimate load is noted down, and the shear strength can be estimated. And one more test, Mealy test. Okay, it is almost similar to the triplet test. So there is a two stack of bricks placed one above the other, and one more layer on either side, one more layer of bricks on either side, and they are joined by the mortar. It means the joint is provided by using the mortar, and the loading is applied until the shear failure takes place and the shear strength will be estimated. Okay. And one more test what we have is direct shear test. It is also a very simple method, but the loading will be applied horizontally here. In almost in all remaining tests, loading will be applied in vertically downward direction. In case of direct shear test, the loading will be applied in horizontal direction. Okay, the loads of equal magnitude in opposite direction will be applied to two successively stacked bricks. Okay, and here the shearing action will take place, and whenever the shear failure takes place, noting the load carried by the specimens, we can find the what is the shear strength of the bricks. Okay. Now, when you look into all these methods, okay, to find shear strength of the masonry, all these tests mainly concentrating at the joint of the brick, only the joint of the brick. Okay, only they are concentrated. Okay, they are concentrating only the shear strength at the joint, Okay. When a masonry is subjected to the shearing action, there will be contribution from bricks as well, right? There will be contribution from bricks as well. No tests have considered the contribution of the brick, the combined action of the brick, okay? Combined action of the brick while assessing the shear strength of the masonry, okay? Here all tests are concentrated only at the joint, okay? To overcome this advantage, to overcome this disadvantage which is existing in all these remaining tests, there is one more test, that is diagonal tension test. Okay, diagonal tension test. Here, what will be done is a masonry wallet will be constructed. Okay, a masonry wallet will be constructed, and it is placed as shown in figure. Okay, it is placed as shown in figure, and the loads are applied from top and the bottom of the masonry wallet at top corner as well as bottom corner. Okay, and the failure load will be noted. Okay, here shear failure may takes place like this. Okay, or in any other form depending upon the strength at the joint and strength of the bricks and strength of the mortar. Okay, it depends on several factors. Okay, now in this test, whatever the disadvantages we had in the previous test, that is those disadvantages are overcome in this diagonal tension test. Correct? The whole the combined action of the bricks as well as mortar and brick mortar joint is taken into consideration, and the shear and the actual shear strength of the masonry is assessed. Okay, so this is the most commonly used test for assessing the shear strength of the masonry. Okay, in IASA and all, this setup is there. Okay, the setup to conduct this diagonal tension test is there. The instruments are there. We can, if you get any if you get time, you can once visit the IASC. Okay, there a lot of research is going on with respect to this masonry. Okay, and you will be studying in detail about these tests in the, I think in the next semester. You have a regular subject on design of masonry structures. There you will be studying in detail further. Okay. So this is how the shear strength of the masonry will be investigated. The next and last topic of this model, BIS codal provisions for earthquake resistant design of masonry. BIS codal provisions. There is a code book, that is IS 4326/1993. Okay, IS 4326/1993. I'll show you. I have downloaded that code book. earthquake resistant design and construction of buildings codes of practice. Okay, using in this code book the guidelines are given for design of a earthquake resistant masonry. Okay, and whatever the theory part are written with reference to that code book only. In your examination, this code book is not allowed actually. It is not allowed. You need to remember the points which I have written here. Okay. The main points I have taken from this IS 4326 code book. Okay. And there is clear-cut guidelines with respect to the masonry units and masonry mortar, okay, and masonry bond, openings, roof band, okay, reinforce the section of reinforcing band. Clear-cut guidelines are there. We need to follow. If we follow all those guidelines which are mentioned in this code book, then we will have a good earthquake-resistant design of the masonry. Okay. With respect to the masonry unit, let us see what is the guideline. With respect to the masonry units, well burnt bricks conforming to IS 1077/1992, okay, or solid concrete blocks conforming to IS 2185. Okay. Again, with respect to the quality of the bricks and strength of the bricks, we have to use IS 1077 code book for burnt brick units. And if it is a solid concrete blocks, then we need to refer IS 2185 for to get the guidelines for good quality of concrete bricks. Okay. And compressive strength of the brick should be minimum 3.5 Newton per mm square or 3.5 MPa. Okay. For earthquake resistant masonry, the minimum compressive strength of the brick used should be 3.5 MPa. Okay. The strength of masonry unit required shall depend on number of stories and the thickness of the wall. Okay. If we are going for higher number of stories, then we will have to use the bricks of higher strengths. Okay. And if you are restricting the thickness of the masonry, okay, if we are restricting thickness of the masonry, then also we need to go for higher strength of the bricks. Okay. So this is the guideline with respect to the masonry unit. Then coming to the masonry mortar, this masonry mortar is recommended depending upon the category of the construction, category A, category B, C, D, E. Okay, we have total 5 category of constructions. For each and every category of constructions, there is a separate mixed proportion mentioned. Okay, M2, M3, okay, H2, M1, okay. So these proportions you will get it from IS 1907 code book, okay, and IS 1905 code book, okay. I will show you. Here you have different notations for mixed proportion, no? M2, M3, H2, like that. For each category of mixed proportion, there is a guideline given. Yes, here you have. Say H1, H2, M1, M2 are the notations for different mixed proportions. Okay, different mixed proportions between cement, lime, okay, lime pozzolana mixture, pozzolana, sand, okay. For each and every category of the mixes, proportions are mentioned. Okay, for example, if you take a mixed proportion of M2, okay, mixed proportion for M2, the proportion is 1:0:0:0:0:6, like that. Okay, and if you are taking the H1 mixed proportion, H1, the ratio is 1:0.24, 1/4, 1:0.25:3. Okay, here again in the lime C or B, okay, A, B, C, something like that it is mentioned. there are different types of lime. Okay, if you take lime, that lime will come in different types. That lime is divided into hydraulic lime, semi-hydraulic lime, and fat lime. Okay, A represents hydraulic lime, and B represents semi-hydraulic lime, and C represents fat lime. Okay, depending upon the CaOH content in the lime, it is this lime is divided into hydraulic, semi-hydraulic, and fat lime. Okay, so here you will get different mixed proportions with respect to these notations. Okay, then coming to the category of construction, construction is categorized depending upon the zone of the earthquake and the importance factor. Okay, construction, the method of construction is categorized depending upon zone of the earthquake, whether it is zone 2, 3, 4, or and depending upon the importance factor, whether it is 1 or 1.5, the category of the construction is made. That is given in IS 4326 code book. I think in page number 10 it is there. Let me see. Yeah, here it is there. See, if zone of the building is 2 and importance factor is 1, then category falls under category B. Okay. If zone of the building is 4, okay, then importance factor is 1.5, the building will fall under category E, like that. Earlier zone 1 was there. With respect to zone 1, we used to define category A. Now that zone 1 is removed. Okay, zone 1 is removed. The starting zone we consider is zone 2 only. Okay. So like this, the building is categorized depending upon zone in which the building is lying and importance factor of the building. Okay, with respect to the different category of the building, okay, a different category of the construction, okay, the required mixed proportion, okay, the required mixed proportion to be used is given. Okay, if category of construction is A, you can use either M2 or M3. Okay, the standard mixed proportion for M2 and M3 is given in that code book, IS 1905 code book. Okay, if the building falls between falls in category B or the C, then M2 mixed proportion is preferred. If the building category falls in category D and E, H2 and M1 mixed proportion should be used. Okay, so this is the guideline with respect to the masonry mortar. Okay, guideline with respect to the masonry mortar. Now we have seen guideline with respect to the masonry units, means bricks. Okay, we have seen guideline for mortar. Next guideline is whatever the walls placed in a building. Okay, whatever the walls placed in a building, there should be, as far as possible, they should be placed symmetrically. Okay, they should be placed symmetrically. Okay, they should look symmetric in plan. Okay, that is the third guideline. Then coming to the masonry bond, there are different types of bonds available, like English bond, Flemish bond. Okay, like that, different types of bonds are there. You can use any bonds, okay, any types of masonry bonds to achieve the full strength of the masonry. Okay, I can use any standard types of masonry bonds. Okay, either it may be English bond or Flemish bond. Okay, anything you can use. Any standard types of masonry bond which are specified in the textbooks or code book. Okay, that will take care of the earthquake load, no problem. Okay, all those bonds are designed with respect to both vertical load as well as the horizontal load. Okay, you can adopt any standard types of bonds. Then coming to the opening in bearing walls. opening in the walls. Whatever the opening in the walls which we are providing, as far as possible, that opening should be less. Okay, especially in bearing walls. Means bearing walls, load bearing walls means where the full load is handled by walls only. There is no column and the beam. Okay, in villages you can see the load bearing walls constructed. They don't construct the frame structures. Okay, beam column they won't construct. They directly they will construct the wall. Over the wall they will place the slab. Okay, in that case the whole load will be handled by masonry wall only. That wall is called as load bearing masonry or the load bearing wall. In that case, as far as possible, the opening should be less. Okay, the percentage of opening in the wall should be less. That is why in villages, if you see most of the constructions there, the window sizes will be less only. Okay, compared to the window sizes provided in the frame structures. Okay, because the whole load will be handled by masonry only, not by the frame. And the one more thing, this opening, whatever the window opening we are providing, it should be as far as possible it should be placed at the center only. Okay, at the center only, symmetrically it should be placed. Means on either side the distance should be the same, or the offset should be the same. Okay, and that is the thing. First thing is, opening should be as far as possible they should be small and they should be centrally placed. That is the second guideline. And third guideline, if you are providing the n number of openings all around the building, the top of the opening should be at the same level. Okay, the top of the opening should be at the same level. Okay, that is the guideline. Because if you provide the top of the opening at the same level, then it will be easy to provide a continuous band, that is lintel beam. Okay, lintel beam we can provide at a single level continuously. Okay, in almost all nowadays in all the constructions, the top of the opening will be at the same level only. Okay, so that a continuous lintel beam can be provided all around the periphery of the building. Okay, that is also one of the guideline with respect to the openings. Okay. Then there is one more guideline, that is roof band. If the building having the load bearing walls, okay, if the building doesn't have the frame structure, if it is only constructed of load bearing walls, then we have to go for roof band. Okay, roof band will be provided just below the slab. Okay, just below the slab the roof band will be provided. And that roof band need not to be provided if the slab is continuous. Okay, roof band need not to be provided if the slab is continuous. Okay, slab is continuous. For example, if you have one wall here and one more wall, intermediate wall. Okay, if you are providing the slab over this all walls, at this joint or at this wall, you need not to provide the roof band. Okay, you need not to provide the roof band. Only it is the roof band will be provided at the periphery of the building. Okay, at the periphery of the building the roof band will be provided. Roof band means it is a small reinforced concrete beam. Okay, reinforced concrete beam placed at the top of the wall, just below the slab. Okay, and there is guideline with respect to the section of the roof band. Okay, there is a guideline with respect to the section of the roof band. Just a minute, I am trying to write a figure. There is some problem with the pen. Okay. Over the wall, you are providing the roof band, no? Reinforced concrete, small reinforced concrete beam you are providing. Okay. With respect to that section, there is a guideline. The grade of concrete should have minimum M15 grade. Okay. The grade of concrete used should have minimum M15 grade. And for reinforced brick work in cement mortar, not leaner than 1:3. Okay, the proportion should be minimum. It should have 1:3. Okay, not beyond that. 1:4, it is not allowed. Okay, and whatever the bands we are providing, it should be to the full width of the wall. Okay, it should be provided for the with respect to the full width of the wall, and it should have minimum 75 mm thickness. Okay, whatever the reinforcing band we are providing, it should have minimum 75 mm thickness. Okay, so these are all the main or the important guidelines with respect to the earthquake resistance design of the masonry or earthquake resistance design of a masonry building. Okay, so with this this module 3 is completed. Module 3 is completed. No, and from Monday, as you have revision classes, and after that you have, I think after 19th you have the study holidays. After that you need to complete your examination. After completion of your examination, your second semester subjects will resume. Okay, that is why what I will do is yesterday I was designing. The castellated beam, no, in that another 2 to 3 steps are remaining. I will complete that. Okay, if I do not complete, no, it will remain for long time. Okay, because I have to take the class after a very long time. That is why I complete this castellated beam, design of castellated beam. Another 2 to 3 steps are remaining. I will complete it. Okay, so that we can start a fresh topic in the next class. Okay, let me complete this design. Only around 15 to 20 minutes is required. I'll complete it. Okay. Yesterday we have done up to check for combined stresses due to bending and the shear. That this step we have finished. I hope this step is very clear for all of you. Next step, check for web bearing. Write it. Check for web bearing. Next step, check for web bearing. Check for web bearing. Okay, please write. And with respect to earthquake resistance subject, I will start model 4 after your examinations. Okay, external examination of first semester. Check for web bearing is 100% similar to that of the problems which we have solved in the first model. Okay, you can just refer to those problems and you can do the check for web bearing. for unstiffened and stiffened beams we used to do check for web bearing. No? Same procedure, nothing is different. You need to follow the same procedure. Try to do it. Check for web bearing. Write the formula which is there in page number 67 of the code book. 67 means okay. Here we have the formula. Okay. Copy this formula. Fw is equal to Fw is equal to B1. Follow the same procedure. Okay. B1 plus N2 into TW into Fi all divided by gamma m naught. Okay, page number 67. 67 IS 800. Okay, what is B1 here? B1 is nothing but length of the bearing plate. Okay, that bearing length is not given. You assume some bearing length. You go for either 75 mm bearing length or 100 mm. So here I will go for 100 mm as bearing length. Assume. Then N2 is equal to, what is N2? What is the formula for N2? It is 2.5 times R plus TF, where R is radius at root. Okay, this formula is also there in the code book. Correct? You can just refer to the previous problems. Follow the same procedure. Radius at root, have you written this radius at root while writing the sectional properties? Let me see. Radius at root, I think we have not written. It's not written. ISMB 450 we have taken. No? We will see what is the radius at root. Can anyone see what is the radius at root for ISMB 450? Okay, it is opening. R is equal to radius at root it is taking some time.
50s.
How much? 15, correct. 15 mm. N2 is equal to 2.5 into 15 plus thickness of flange is 17.4. How much will get N2 value? Yes, 81. Therefore, Fw is equal to B1 plus N2. B1 is 100 plus N2 is 81. B1 plus N2 into TW into Fi. Thickness of web is 9.4, correct? Thickness of web is 9.4 into Fi is given as 250 whole divided by gamma m naught 1.1. What is the answer?
386.68 into 10 power 3.
Yes. Ten power 3 Newton. Therefore, FW is equal to 386.68 kilonewton. This we need to compare with the shear force that is acting on the section. The shear force, the ultimate shear force that is acting on the section is 105 kilonewton. Okay, 105 kilonewton. The ultimate shear force acting on the section is 105 kilonewton. Therefore, this resistance is greater than 105 kilonewton. Hence, okay. Okay. So this completes the check for web bearing. Next step is check for web buckling. Correct? Check for web buckling. It supports. Write it. Check for web buckling at supports. Check for web buckling at supports. For checking web buckling at the support, first you need to find the radius of gyration. To find radius of gyration, you need moment of inertia and the area of the web. Okay. First you find moment of inertia and area of the web. I effective is equal to B1 into TW cube divided by 12. B1 bearing we have assumed it as 100. This is also similar to the previous problems of module 1. Okay, same procedure. 9.4 cube divided by 12. Thickness of web is 9.4.
6921.53.
Yes. mm4 and A effective at the web is equal to B1 into TW. TW 100 into 9.4 is equal to 940 mm square. Okay, now you can find radius of gyration or minimum is equal to root of I by A. Okay, root of 69 to 1.53 divided by 940.
2.713.
Yes, 2.71. Just a minute, the pen is not working properly today. Okay, this is equal to 2.71. Okay. Now find KL, effective length. KL is given by 0.7 times the effective depth. Okay, 0.7 times the effective depth. This is given in page number 66 of the code book. Okay, page number 66 of the code book. 0.7 times the effective depth. What we have chosen is 670. Correct? 670 or 675.
675.
675. 0.7 into 675. How much?
472.5.
472.5 mm. Next you can find KL by R. KL by R is equal to 472.5 divided by R is 2.71. How much will get?
174.35.
174.35. Next, go to page number 42, table number 9 of codebook, and find FCD value there. Okay. Refer this table. KL by R value is 174.35 and FI is given as 250 with respect to 174.35. You find the FCD value, design compressive stress. 174.35 means it will fall between 170 and 180, or 170 with respect to FE 250 48.1, sorry 48.1, and for 180 it is 43.6. 48.1 from table 9C, page number 46 of codebook. For Fy is equal to 250 Newton per mm square. So 42 no. For 170, 48.1. KL by R is equal to 180. Corresponding FCD is with respect to Fe 250 43.6. 43.6. Okay. Then by interpolation, for KL by R is equal to 174.35. FCD is equal to how much? Do the interpolation.
46.08.
46.08 Newton per mm square. Okay. Now you find the area of cross section of web which is subject to the web buckling. Okay. AB is equal to, what is the formula? It is B1 plus N1 into TW. Okay, this formula is there in the code book, page number 67. Okay, page number 67, I think. 70. Yes, here we have that formula, B1 plus N1 into TW. What is N1? N1 is the distribution of the shear force, okay, along the web at middle span of the web. Okay, it will distribute at 45 degree. Therefore, this N1 is taken as, should be taken as half of the overall depth. Okay, that is D by 2. Okay, that is 675 divided by 2. How much will you get? 675 divided by 2, I think 3. 75 divided by 2, 37.5, correct? 337.5 mm. Okay. B1 is known, TW thickness of web is known, substitute. Therefore, AB is equal to B1 is equal to 100 plus N1 is 337.5 into TW thickness of web. It is 9.4. 9.4. By this, you will get area of web which is subjected to the buckling.
4112.5
mm square, 4112.5 mm square. Therefore, buckling resistance is equal to stress multiplied by area. Stress is FCD into AB. Okay, stress is 46.08 into area in which the area of the web which is subjected to the buckling is 4112.5.
189.50 into 10 power 3.
50 into 10 power 3 Newton, which is 189.50 kilonewton, which is greater than 105 kilonewton, hence safe. Hence the section is safe against web buckling. Okay, lastly there is one more check. This is the last step. Check for shear. Okay, check for shear. Check for shear. For that you write the cross section of the castellated beam, so that it will be easy for calculation. Okay, at the middle there is opening. All the dimensions you write 150. I'll take another 3 to 4 minutes. Please cooperate. This is the last step. Write all cross-sectional details. 150 mm is the flange width. 150 mm is the flange width. Flange thickness is 17.4. Then thickness of this the depth of web is 91.6 mm. Then this thickness of web is 9.4. Okay, here we will have the centroid. Total depth is 675 mm. Okay, the centroid will be half of the depth. At the half of the depth 337.5. Okay, now what we have to do is, using that conventional formula, elastic shear stress formula, you have to first calculate the actual stress acting on the full section. we know that the elastic shear stress, elastic, yes, elastic shear stress is equal to VQ by IT. Okay, which is the next class? Which is the next class, students?
No class.
No class. Okay.
Don't know, sir. They didn't tell anything.
Okay. Elastic shear stress VQ by IT, where V is the shear force acting on the section. Shear force V is equal to, we have already determined the shear force, that is 105 kilonewton. Okay, and Q is moment of area about the centroid. Q is equal to moment of area about centroid is equal to Q is equal to sigma AY or AY. Now what you have to do is you have to find moment of this T section about the centroid. Moment of this T section about the centroid. This T section, if you divide into two parts, one is plane section and the web section. First you find the moment of this flange about the centroid. Okay, here moment is given by area into central distance. Area is 150 into 17.4. Sigma AY is equal to, therefore Q is equal to sigma AY. First you find the moment of this area of flange about the centroid. 150 into 17.4 is the area. 150 into 17.4 is the area, and distance of centroid of flange from centroid of whole figure. How much it will be? It will be how much? Total 337.5 minus half of the depth, 17.4 by 2, will give distance between the centroid. Therefore, it is 337.5 minus 17.4 whole divided by 2. Okay. So by doing this, you got A1 Y1, then A2 Y2 means moment of this web about the centroid. Area of web is 91.6 multiplied by 9.4, right? Plus 91.6 into 9.4 into Y2. Y2 means distance of G2, means distance of centered of this web from centered of the whole figure. Okay, how much it will be? 337.5 minus this length. What about this length? It will be 17.4 plus 91.6 divided by 2. Correct? Am I right? This length will be means distance of centroid of web from the top of the flange. It will be 17.4 plus 91.6 divided by 2. How much will you get? Okay, you keep as it is. Same calculation you can write there. So this 337.5 minus this length will give distance between the centroids. Correct? This length it will give. Therefore, it is 337.5 minus of 17.4 plus 91.6 divided by 2. Now you will get Q, moment of area. Tell me the answer.
1.094 into 10 power 6.
1.094. Correct. 1.094 into 10 power 6, right?
Yes, sir.
So moment of area, it is nothing but mm cube only. Its unit will be. Then substitute everything in this formula. You will get the elastic shear stress. Shear force V is known, Q is known. Moment of inertia of the section, I think we have written in the beginning itself. Therefore, V Q by IT is equal to, therefore, elastic shear stress is equal to V is 105 kilonewton, nothing but 105 into 10 power 3 into Q. V is 1.094 into 10 power 6 divided by IT. Moment of inertia, let me see. In the properties, I think I have written it. $30,390. $30,390, correct? Moment of inertia about the major axis. $30,390. Into, it is in terms of centimeter raised to 4 into 10 power 4 into thickness of web is 9.4. What is the answer? See, in the notes which I have shared to you, there I have taken some different value. Okay, for this moment of inertia, you need to take this moment of inertia about major axis. What is the answer?
0.040.
0.04 Newton per mm square. Okay, and this value should be compared with the 0.7 times Fy. 0.7 times of Fy given is 250. Fy given is 250. What is the answer?
175.
175 Newton per mm square. Therefore, this 0.04 elastic shear stress 0.04 is less than 175 Newton per mm square. This is the shear stress acting. This is the shear resistance. Hence safe. Okay. So this completes the full design of castellated beam. Okay. So from Monday onwards, revision of your first semester subject will take. I hope everyone started preparing for examination. Don't waste the time. We have very limited time. If you are prepared earlier, no problem. If you are not prepared, don't waste time. Okay.
Sir, elastic shear stress, I got 40.21.
40.21, huh?
Yes, sir, 40.2.
But 0.04 when it came, I also got some confusion. 40 point.
2-1.
2-1, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. 2-1.
Okay. $40.21. So in the notes which I have shared, this different value I have taken. So whatever the moment of inertia about major axis is there, no, that you need to take. Okay. So to this I will end the class.